Johnson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank the witnesses for being here. Mr. Vance, what's the difference between a company being ordered to use its best efforts? I think the language is, let's see, reasonable, a court order requiring reasonable technical assistance. What's the difference between a court order requiring reasonable technical assistance to accomplish the bypassing or disabling of the auto erase function versus a civil subpoena or a court order pursuant to a subpoena, a motion to compel the delivery of information under that person's custody and control? Is there a difference?
I'm not sure, Congressman, there is a difference. They're both court orders that are directing an end result. One maybe in a civil context, one in a criminal context. But I would say that in this discussion, it's very much a part of our history in America that when companies produce items or objects, or commerce becomes ubiquitous in a particular area, that the company has to have the realization that part of a group of people who are using its product are using it to commit criminal purposes. Take a look at the banking system, currency transaction reports. So once it became obvious that criminals were moving cash through the banks, the response was you have to create and file transaction reports when cash is moved. So when two companies like these two hugely successful and important companies own 96.7% of the world's smartphone market, and we know that criminals are using the devices to commit crimes. We've heard some of those stories. I don't think that it is new in American history or in the context of business ethics or oversight for companies to have to adapt to the realities of the product they've created.
Because they are the only ones that a bank that received the cash would be the only entity in a position to submit a currency transaction report.
It would be the only one required to. If someone else had information about it, they could submit it, but it would be the only one who had firsthand knowledge.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Landau, is it your opinion that the government should not have the ability to compel Apple to use its best efforts to accomplish a technical feat? Is that your opinion?
So there are two answers to that. If you're asking me a lawyer question, then I'm not a lawyer and I'll dodge. But if you're asking me as a technologist, then I would say that it is a security mistake. It's a security mistake because code,
what Apple would do would inherently cause a insecurity in their system.
That's right, and it will be the target of organized crime and nation states. It will be very valuable for somebody who puts a phone down as they go through customs, for somebody who goes to a business meeting and they're not allowed to bring their phone in because it's a meeting under non-disclosure and the phone is sitting outside for a few hours. All sorts of situations, the phone will become very interesting, and if there's code that can actually get into the phone and get the data, that code is going to be the target of nation states.
Once Apple creates the code, then it makes it susceptible to being stolen and misused.
That's right. That's right.
So
now,
therefore, Apple should not be required to comply with the court order.
I'm not answering a legal question. I'm answering a security question. It's a security question. It makes a real mistake.
Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Sewell, you would agree with that?
I would agree that if we're forced to create this tool, that it reduces the safety and security, not within our own systems, Congressman.
Well, now let me ask this question. What about the security and the safety of those whose liberty can be taken and lives can be taken due to an ongoing security situation which the FBI is seeking to get access to information about. Is there an interest in the public security that we're talking about here?
Congressman, that's what...
The time of the gentleman has expired, but Mr. Sewell may answer the question.
That's what makes this such a hard issue, because we're balancing two different but very similar issues. Private security, the security of people who use iPhones, the location of your children, the ability to prevent your children from being kidnapped or harmed, versus the security that's inherent in being able to solve crimes. So it's about how do we balance these security needs? How do we develop the best security for the United States? Read the statements by General, any of the encryption specialists today will say that defeaturing or debilitating encryption makes our society less safe overall. And so that's what we're balancing. Is it the right thing to make our society overall less safe in order to solve crime?